Visions, Astral Visions.
What's up, everybody? This is Todd from the Todd Christopher Podcast and owner of Aspirations Studios. Want to thank you all for joining me today. Today, I'm excited because I have my first guest, which is Trance. He's a local pop artist that's been making a lot of waves here as of late. His new album, Him, has been out. It's available on all streaming platforms. So we're going to get together. We're going to chit chat up today. He invited me into his humble abode, as you can see here. And we're going to talk about his origin story, where he came from, where he's currently at now, what he's got going on in the future. And he's got a couple surprises for his fans out there. So stay tuned. So I guess we'll start at the beginning. So now, before there was Trance, who were you and how'd you get into music?
I mean, I've always been into music
Mhm.
since I was a kid. I've always been singing. I was in school shows. I was in choir, all of that typical stuff. I always knew that I wanted to get into making music at some point. I didn't really know how,
Okay.
but I always knew I wanted to get into the space. I always knew I had something within me, something to say.
Mhm.
And I think my writing kind of just started off with like random poems and things like that, just trying to figure out some sort of flow. That was always, I guess, like generally artistic or into art, I should say.
So now let me ask you this. Did it start out with an instrument, or was it just the singing that really compelled you to get into this line of work?
I think it was the singing mainly.
The singing mainly?
I don't like actually play any instruments like professionally, or I'm not fluent in them, I should say. I know it sounds good. I can play notes on a piano. I can play notes on a guitar.
Okay.
What I've learned, I've kind of taught myself, seen in videos and stuff like that. But it was always origin would be singing. That's
Okay.
always been my thing.
And I can relate to that too, because myself, even though I played 3 instruments, I would say 2 of them were self-taught, which were the violin and guitar. Right. Yeah, the old world's smallest violin. But yeah, so the violin and guitar, then I got formally trained on violin and then formally trained on trombone. But, it's always just picking up an instrument and just starting, or just singing,
Yeah.
that gets you to where you want to be. So now, who were some of your initial influences, like when you started singing?
When I started,
Yeah.
I mean, and still,
Mhm.
one of my biggest influences in music in general is John Bellion. In terms of songwriting and production, his music is very, diverse, I guess, but like poppy mainly. A lot of my sound came from, what I've heard through him. Other artists like Jeremy Zucker, Billie Eilish. You can hear throughout my songs a lot of the influences with the vocals and the different instrumentation.
Mhm.
And that changes over time. I typically, whatever I'm making is a good reflection of a lot of the art that I've been consuming
Okay.
at that time, if that makes sense.
So then at what point did you decide, hey, this is no longer a hobby. This is actually going to be a career. Like, I need to do this.
I don't know that there was like a moment where I made that decision. I think I always wanted to do that. Since I was a kid, I always saw myself being a musician and performing. I was not the person that I am now then. So obviously the journey was in learning, building confidence in myself, being able to do it. And I think in creating like my first couple songs and seeing myself actually, have something to say, I started taking it more seriously, and life happened and I had a lot to say.
Mhm.
So I put that together and made what Him is today.
It reminds me of when I first got into making music and producing and things of that nature. What did those first recordings sound like?
There was something. I mean, I
'Cause
still
I got some rough ones out there. I
Yeah.
got some rough ones out there.
I mean, it was trial and error for me, and those songs are still up. I've thought about, going back and re-recording them, remastering them. Eventually, I probably will go back and tweak them a little bit, but I think it's nice to have like the progression of my skill in music production and singing and all of these things and putting together a song out there for people to see. Because you can go from the first song that I ever released, which was Marathon, I believe.
Okay, I remember Marathon.
Or it might have been Summer Sun. Summer Sun I worked on with one of my friends, but Marathon was the first song I released that was solo, like just me making it.
Yeah.
And it's out there. You can hear it. I mean, the mixing on it's a little interesting. You know, I was working with cheap equipment. It was the first thing that I ever put out. I didn't expect it to be perfect, but I kind of appreciate that is there and not perfect, because it is a nice reminder of all of the things that I've learned like over time just through doing it and having one song come out, seeing what I don't like, tweaking it on the next.
Right.
Trial and error.
Yeah, the overall evolution of trance. And earlier you touched on the fact that you're different now when you started versus where you are present day. Talk to me about that. How is trance today different than trance from day one?
I think a big thing that's different, and something that I learned in releasing my first album, is just kind of like my level of confidence in myself. I always saw, when it came to music first starting and putting things out, I never felt like I could do that on my own. And when I first put out a song and realized, I can, go on this website and distribute a song to streaming platforms and have that out there, that was obviously a change in my mind. But I think just in general, I didn't have a very strong belief in myself that I was able to, create something by myself. I thought I was going to need help. And, I need help. I bring people in. It's not something that I kind of like keep myself in a little box and just do everything by myself to say I did it by myself. I've found value in the collaboration, but I did have to build a lot of that confidence on my own and making those songs and writing them and learning what I did throughout opening up Logic and figuring out what all of these things are,
Yeah. And sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, fear is your biggest opposition. I know when I started getting into music and playing guitar, even just having the fear of going to recitals, being in the school band, to saying like, hey, I want to work with you guys, or am I good enough to be in this band? Because I mostly played like punk and metal growing out. So a lot of tech, a lot of tech work on the actual fret. It's like, am I really good enough? Am I solid? And sometimes I can actually crush your dreams.
Yeah.
So it's great that your confidence level has increased exponentially over the years to bring you where you are today. So now, in regards to the evolution of trance, talk to me about your songwriting. Has your process changed? Is it the same? Do you feel that you're better at songwriting now, or have you kind of plateaued? Where are you at?
I don't necessarily feel like I have a rigid process. Some songs, I'm making a beat and I'm listening to the beat over and over and I start writing lyrics down, and that's how it's made. Sometimes the lyrics come to me first and I build a beat kind of like around that.
Yeah.
I don't have a rigid process. Everything has come about differently, I guess, in all of the songs that I've written. I think my songwriting has become a little bit more free or like open, in the sense of when I was creating him, there was a sense of needing some sort of structure to the songs. And there were some there that, don't have a very rigid structure, but within my music, I kind of like that, the traditional chorus, verse. Like, I don't necessarily feel like that needs to be applied to every song. And I know that when we're talking about like hits on the radio and things like that,
Beatles formula,
there is, there's a formula that you have to follow or should follow. I don't really stick to that. I write what comes to me. Sometimes there's verse. Sometimes there's not a chorus. Like sometimes the chorus is something that I say one time in the song and I allow, another portion of it to be instrumentation. Like it's very much just free flowing. I think every song is different in that.
Nice. And so based on what you're saying, it sounds like things really change when you went to work on him versus where you had been coming from, what you've been doing prior to what you wanted that project to be. So let's talk about that. Let's kind of stay here for a bit. So now him is a very bold title for an album. Talk to me about what that means to you and what you wanted that to convey to the audience.
Funny enough, I don't think that I shared a lot of the lore behind the project, but
We got time.
the reason that I called it him is because the person who I wrote, who a lot of the songs are about on that album, he showed me a movie called Her, which I don't know if you've ever seen. It has Joaquin Phoenix. I think it's a Spike Jonze.
Yes, it's the one where Scarlett Johansson is the AI.
She's the AI.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, I think that movie is one of my favorites. I think it's very ironic, and this is a whole different topic. We don't have to go down, but I think it's ironic that a movie in which somebody is falling in love with a voice or, you know, not a real person does such an amazing job at portraying love and heartbreak and all of these things. And yes, partially, you know, he showed me that movie, and the title is a play on that. Because you know it's about a man, obviously. If you couldn't tell,
I was kind of like, is it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. But throughout the project as well, I emulated a lot of the themes within that movie. So the interludes, the one interlude in the middle, conversation that I did with my friend Christina, where I kind of go on a bit of a, not a tangent, but I start talking about how I feel that I may have experienced everything already.
Yeah.
You know, that is inspired directly by the movie that takes place in the movie. Joaquin Phoenix's character has that conversation with his friend as well. Right. The ending, where I'm kind of signing off and saying my goodbyes in a sense, is also directly influenced by the movie, where at the end of the movie, he kind of says his piece. So I took a lot of those, or I borrowed a lot of those themes. Originally, when I was making the project, I had sampled a lot of different pieces of the movie. And I didn't know if I was allowed to do that. And when I looked it up, I found out I was not allowed to do that.
Right.
And on the chance, you know, that the album made it big or something, I wouldn't want to deal with like legal, anything like that. So I decided instead, we're just going to kind of take that. I'm going to mix up some words, make it mine, you know, and emulate those emotions without pulling directly from the movie.
Oh, sick. So I'm curious, was there ever, when you started this project, you started it directly from the movie, so there was never another title that you wanted for it or anything else? It was specifically him.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know that when I was creating the project, I had the title in mind. Again, I don't have a rigid structure in figuring a lot of this out. Sometimes it just happens over time. But I think with this, knowing that I was going to take pieces from the movie, I did have that idea in my head. I wasn't married to it in the beginning. I was open to something else, but as time went on, I kind of liked the idea of the simple one word. And I think one album that came out, or actually, no, I think that might have come out after. That was after.
Which album?
Okay, I was thinking about Brat. I remember I forgot Charlie XCX. I remember like the one word, but I think that was after. I think it had more to do with the fact that it was just pulling directly from the title, but I did like that it was one word and it's not like complicated. It's up, you know. The songs speak for themselves in what the album is, you know.
Right. And speaking of the songs speaking for themselves, there's a very deep emotional content within the songs, from the structure, from the style of music, from the lyrics. I want to know, what was the hardest song for you to write on that album?
I would say probably Find Me was the hardest one to write. I had the whole album done pretty much, or not polished and finished, but I had all of the songs figured out, and Find Me was on my mind. I wanted to write a song that provided a bit of perspective in terms of how I felt, like, not before the heartbreak, more so if I was to give this one last thing where I'm not coming from this angry place. Like, if you go through the album, I go through all these different emotions. I go through anger, I go through sadness, I go through all of those stages of grief in essence. And with Find Me, I wanted it to be something where I forced myself to be vulnerable again.
Okay.
When I was thinking about this person.
Right.
And I took the anger out. That's why it was a song that was written at the end, because I had already made all of these songs with all of these other emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted something soft on the project. I wanted to be vulnerable and kind of not look at it as if it didn't happen, but kind of bring myself back to a space before I felt hurt, where I could encompass kind of the beauty of it all without the anger and the sadness and all of these things. Obviously, it's a sad song, but with just kind of like the love in mind, I guess.
There is a lot of emotion. Obviously, this was inspired by a breakup. Is what I'm got kind of sort of situationship type
end of situation.
Yeah,
not necessarily breakup, but
okay, fair enough.
Same effect.
All right, fair enough. So, but you're able to take all of that, lean into vulnerability, and create this beautiful piece of music. So, in doing so, I know what the hardest song for you to write was. What was the easiest, or what came together the fastest? I would say. Let's start there.
I'm trying to like picture the track list in my head. I don't remember. Probably no, because that one I ended up going back to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know that there was one that was like the easiest. A lot of these songs, for example, a song like False Hope on the album, I had the first half of that song for like a year or two before I did anything with it. That I wrote while the situation was still alive, but I was kind of, seeing what was going on and taking that, putting it into something. Regardless, I had half of that done. I ended up going back to that song, and the second half of it, where the beat switches up and it gets softer, that was a completely different recording session years later. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these songs, I would say that was probably the easiest to put together, because I think I just had the beat and everything kind of like laid out. But the second portion of that was not as easy, because a lot of these things, like we were just talking about, required vulnerability and honesty. And I think that just came with time.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was actual love, because what is, grief if not love persevering, right?
Yeah.
I definitely hear you on that. But now it's out. It's out for the world to see. It's out for the world to hear.
Yes, it is.
What's been the response to this pouring out of emotion and musically that you've done?
Like from
just friends,
the response
family,
within myself, or like outward?
Give me both. Inward and outward.
I think this helped me build even more confidence in myself with creating a project, finishing it, and putting it out. It was not perfect, right?
Right.
But
that's perfect, right?
I knew that, and as I was just saying in the beginning, I think that there's something nice in it not being perfect, because it's almost just like a direct representation of the situation. It's not perfect. The response from others, I mean, I got some decent streams on it. I probably would have done better had I actually advertised myself or promoted myself during that time, but I can't really beat myself up for that. I didn't feel it at that time. My goal with that project was not necessarily to like break through and be, have all of these streaming numbers. It was a much more personal thing. Putting all of those emotions into something, knowing that I want to let it go, and releasing the album was releasing those emotions from myself. Like, that's what the point of the project was. That's what it means to me. It's a release of all of those emotions that I allowed to live within myself while I was healing from it.
So it kind of just closed the door on that. That was the final paragraph, let's say, of that chapter.
Yeah.
So that you could move on.
And I knew I needed to do something.
Right.
Because all of those emotions were sitting within me. But releasing the album felt like all of those emotions are gone for me because I put it into something that now is out for other people to hear and appreciate, because I think most people can understand and appreciate love and what heartbreak feels like.
Right. That's good. That's good. So now, since we've talked about closing that chapter and leaving all of that behind, moving forward, tell me, what do you have going on present day? There's a new video coming out, correct?
Yes. For my song No Personnel.
Okay.
I have a couple songs that I'm working on and are going to be coming out within the next couple weeks. Very different from the album. I think after releasing Him, I was left in the space of, okay, what am I to do next? And I continued making beats and things. I didn't really have much to say after that project came out. I kind of went back into the living life side of things. I think that there's two sides, like not the 6-7. There's two sides of things. Like, you have to live in order to make something out of your experience. So I let that album out and I was like, okay, I think now it's time to just live life and like, let's see what there is coming next. And my music right now, I think, is like directly tied to my personal growth. I've been heavily focused on becoming a better version of myself. And I think that these songs kind of represent that process of shedding the things that I identify as important to me externally, and breaking it down to a soul level, in a sense of like, who am I outside of other people, outside of my things that surround me, outside of all of that, like, who am I at the core? Kind of like big questions. And these songs really explore what that process was like. So the themes are very different. The sound is very different because my emotions are different now. I've been listening to different music. I've diversified a lot of what I've heard. So that has fed into the different sound of what I've made. But yeah, I think we're just going on what my personal growth journey looks like as time goes on, because that's never really done, but little pieces of it.
And talk to us about the actual video itself. Obviously, it hasn't premiered yet. Will be released soon. Do you have an actual date for that?
It should be July 3rd along with the song.
Okay.
Or like a couple days following.
All right, a couple days.
Let's see. It'll be out very soon after the song comes out on July 3rd.
All right, so July 3rd.
Yeah.
Look for that, July 3rd. So now, in regards to the video, talk to me about that process. What was that like? What were you going through? What were you thinking about? What did you want to convey? What do you want to convey with this visual representation of this music?
So funny enough, I feel with a lot of my music, I think the words often come before the action. Mm-hmm. I almost like look at creating music and writing music as like a manifestation tool in a way.
Okay.
When I was writing No Personnel, I wanted to be in a space of self-reflection and really put the blinders on, get everything out of the way, and look at me. But I wasn't in that space yet. And when I was creating the video, I think I was very much in that space at that time. And as you'll see in the video, it's kind of just a visual representation of shedding all of the personal things that I have and putting them away and looking at myself outside of that, or leading into looking at myself outside of that. No Personnel is kind of the process of shedding all of that and getting into a place where without those things, now I'm actually able to reflect and answer those questions for myself.
So now when you say shedding, are we talking about emotions and material possessions, one or the other, both?
I think it's probably both. I think like physically, yeah, like the vanity of it all, mm-hmm. kind of detaching from things, people, and emotions in a sense, to kind of get all of that out of the way, because it kind of muddies the waters in terms of trying to figure out who you are. Mm-hmm. How do you define yourself outside of your relationships with people, your things.
Yeah.
What is important to you at the core? If you had nothing, like what would you do?
Yeah. Who are you really once all this smoke and mirrors are gone?
Yeah.
And I always say when you're in a room by yourself, whether it's in the middle of the night or whether it's in the day, that's usually the one time when you are who you really are. There's no avatar, there's no people pleasing. It's just, this is you in your raw form. And being able to take that and put that into an art form such as music, as you have done, is something that's highly commendable because it's very hard for people to do.
Yeah.
It's very hard to really look at yourself and take an honest inventory of who you are. And then not only take an honest inventory of who you are, but then convey that and put that out for the rest of the world to see, to judge, to comment, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And I think, this kind of was the natural progression of events after an album where I'm talking about a pretty severe heartbreak. And I look at myself and I look at that situation and try to understand, like, why did this hit so hard? Aside from love is love, it's going to hurt, right?
Yeah, but
what about the situation made this so detrimental to me and within myself? Like, I didn't have a very strong understanding or connection with myself. I saw a situation and that kind of defined I allowed that to define me. So then I lose that situation and I'm left with nothing. And I'm like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel empty? I didn't have a strong sense of self. So how do you build a strong sense of self?
Right.
You start asking yourself those hard questions. You start looking in the mirror, in essence. When you put your head to that pillow at the end of the day, you're by yourself.
Right.
What do you think about? Like, answering those questions or reflecting on those times.
Yeah, and that's the work. That's the work that they always talk about. That's the work that you have to put in on a daily basis, whether you're looking to be 1% better than you were yesterday or just looking to self-discover who you are.
Yeah.
As we've just stated and we've talked over the past few minutes, in regards to just building your overall confidence so that you can move forward, accomplish your goals and accomplish your dreams. Without, there's always going to be that bit of fear. You're always going to have those butterflies.
Yeah.
Like you can't get around.
Yeah.
But the butterflies are good because once you get the butterflies, that's when you actually care about what you're doing. Right. Because if you don't get any butterflies, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I do want to say, in terms of putting out the music, I think a big thing that I had to do was detach from the idea of what the reception would be. Like I carry that with everything, and I hope to carry that throughout the rest of my career in music, because I can't think about how this will be received and at the same time make the art that I feel.
Right.
Immediately, if I'm thinking about, well, how are people gonna, in terms of like even the song structure, right? Like, how are people gonna like this? It's not meant to be a song that's on the radio. If I wanted to make a pop hit, I would make a pop hit. I can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not the point of this art is for me. And that was a big thing, I think, in releasing him and continuing to work on music, that I had to get comfortable with and accept and embrace, that there is no, I can't think about the reception. I have to just make what I feel and what sounds good to me and what encompasses the emotions that I'm feeling.
That's definitely correct, because a lot of times, because you're so clear in your explanations in regards to where you've come from, your entire journey, and what the music means to you and what the music's attempting to convey. But a lot of times artists get caught up in, am I going to be understood? Am I being misunderstood? Are they going to get it? And that's when you kind of psych yourself out.
Yeah.
So then you start making music for the people instead of making the music for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, with me being part of like doing Astral Vision Studios, I love Japanese noise, witch house, Madison Spirit Vision, things of that nature. So I know for a fact that there's a small group, that's stoked on that type of music, right? Maybe 200 people in the world, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Because
That's it. Whoever is going to get it's going to get it. And
exactly.
That's who it's for.
Yeah. And that's the beauty about being a creative being and having that self-awareness and that confidence to be able to just like, hey, I'm just going to create stuff. And if you're into it, cool. If you're not, also cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy that. So now, is there anything else coming out in the near future outside of No Personnel, the music video, and the actual track itself? Do you have anything else going on currently?
I do. I have a bit of a surprise along with no personnel.
Okay.
We'll let that be. You'll see on July 3rd when that comes out.
All right.
But I'm actively working on a bunch of projects. I think I don't have a lot of pressure on myself to have things done in a specific timeline. I do want to kind of keep the momentum going with the release of this song. And these songs kind of directly reflect the growth that I'm going through. And I do feel like I have rapidly kind of picked up speed in that area as of recent. I've continued writing. I'm working on the songs. We got stuff in store in terms of rigid, like what is it? We'll see. I'm very go with the flow in that sense. But I am trying to have that sort of discipline to just keep it going. I don't really want to disappear for another 2 years after dropping something. Though I needed that time before, we're entering into a new era. And though I'm probably not going to drop like a traditional album.
Okay.
I'm going to drop an album's worth of content. I'm going to be continuing to release songs, and it's going to have a theme, and it's all going to make sense together.
Gotcha. So I want to circle back real quick. So you said taking 2 years off. Did you take 2 years off after him or before him?
After.
After.
Because that came out in 2024.
Oh,
I'll be releasing No Personnel on July 3rd, which would be very close to the 2-year anniversary of that album.
Okay.
But that's what I mean in the sense of live life. Like I had to experience things in my life that facilitated the growth that I could then write about and make stuff with.
Right. Because you have to experience life in order to create art.
Yeah.
Right. So we've talked about your origin story, where you are currently now, the overall evolution of Trance the Artist. Let's say 5 years down the road, right? What does that look like for you to look back at your entire journey to be like, I am the artist who I set out to be?
That's a good question. I think it's easy to say, from the very beginning, and I have to constantly remind myself of this throughout the process of releasing music and writing music and asking myself why I'm doing it. When it falls on a small amount of ears.
Yeah.
I've always said, if my music can affect one other person, if anything that I've gone through in my life can help one other person, it's already worth it. Like, it's made its impact.
Nice.
If I were to hope within 5 years that my reach is just a bit bigger, not for the fame or money, that would be nice, but I have things to say, and I think the more people that can hear it, like that's the point. That's success to me, is how my message is received and by how many people, not for the vanity of it, but for the impact of the words.
That's actually a really good answer. Very, very impressive. Very impressive. So now, before we wrap up, I want to ask you, because obviously I worked on the album and I've known you for a period of time.
Yep.
So I know it. I get it. There for the situationship and all the things. But for someone who's discovering trance for the first time and they're listening to him, it's a first piece of music that they've listened to from you. What is the one thing that you want them to take away from that experience?
I think what I would want them to take away is understanding what it's like to heal from a heartbreak. Mm-hmm. That project was my healing journey. Okay. And I documented it all within those songs and all of the emotions that I had to go through to get to the point where at the end of the album, I'm honest with myself, and I'm saying, as much as all of these things exist, I'm going to tie in We're So Back Here for a second, because that song kind of encompasses the two sides of how you feel at the end. Like the beginning portion of that is me kind of expressing the confidence that I've built in myself and who I've become through the journey of like healing. And then the second part is vulnerable. And it's saying, even though I feel this confidence and I've healed, there's a part of me that will always like want the best for this person and hope that they come back around in some sense. Though I'm detached from those emotions, I think the detachment allowed me to write that.
Right.
Because if I was attached to that emotion, I don't think I would be able to be as vulnerable and look at it and say, some people are going to look at that and not see it as growth, right? There's still a part of you holding on to it. I just call it honesty.
Yeah.
It's just honest. That's going to live within me. It still does. That proves to me that love is powerful and important. And I think that that's just beautiful. That I was able to encompass that in my own way of what I see love as, and how to heal from it, and how to continue loving and love again after closing off and going through, a loss.
Awesome. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Did not expect that answer. So highly impressed with you, your depth, your range, your knowledge of self, your awareness of your emotions, and just being able to lean into vulnerability and open up. So, thank you so much for joining me here today. Well, inviting me into your home.
My humble abode.
Your humble abode.
Yes.
Aspirations Studios and, the Todd Christopher Podcast, like, greatly appreciates your time. And obviously we're going to work together in the future. Because you and I are like this now, which is greatly appreciated. But yes, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for your time today. And everyone, be on the lookout for Trance's new video, No Personnel. And also
the song and surprise.
And
one tiny little surprise that I'll mention now. The art coming up on the 2-year anniversary of him. And I look forward to getting that out on physical media.
Nice.
Getting some CDs and vinyls in people's hands. And that's been a dream since I made the album. Even if I'm the only one that's buying the record, y'all better buy the record.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling.
Physical thing.
Yeah.
How I made that.
Yeah. Sleeves and stuff are cool, but like just being able to be like, hey, this physical record that you see here with liner notes, like, I created this.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm gonna put this on a turntable. I'm gonna drop the needle on it. I'm gonna listen to a crackle, and I'm just gonna listen to what I created. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah.
But thank you so much.
Thank you, Todd.
Yes.
And thank you, Cedric, behind the camera. We got to thank.
Oh yeah, we got to shout out Cedric.
We do have to thank
Cedric. Yes. By all means, we'll put all of our contact information so that you can follow us, like, subscribe, set up notifications. There's going to be more coming sooner than you think, to be honest, from the Todd Christopher Podcast and from Aspirations Studios, and then obviously from our guest Trance. All righty, thank you so much. Enjoy.